Hey everybody, this is Colin. Today's Friday, and I just wanted to share something I worked on this week that I thought might be helpful for some other startups. And so I'm going to screen share with a document, but we're looking at market validation and how you can use outbound efforts to test and validate different markets. Companies always ask me, or companies founders frequently ask me, how do I find my first 10, 20, whatever customers? And outbound, they're like, can I build a sales development team? I always say no, don't build a sales development team. You should do this yourself. So you can use sales development tactics, but you shouldn't use a sales development team because you don't want to put too many layers between you and the market feedback. Because really, if you're trying to find your first 5, 10, 15 customers, the most important thing is market feedback. You're trying to validate a market. And strongly believe that that's the number one thing that most companies don't do a great job of. And so how do you acquire market feedback? And I'm going to walk you through a doc that I shared with one of our customers. I've taken their name and all the things out of it, so you won't be able to see any of that. And I could share the doc. We'll probably put a link somewhere. You can check this out. So it's just a template. It's a Google Doc, but I'm going to walk you through it right now. And then I would encourage you to, if you are in this stage, to try and fill it out yourself and and then build your campaigns in this specific way. Because really what we're doing is we're going to break it down at a granular level. We're going to break down your the market segment, then your persona, then the job to be done, and then the core messaging. 4 kind of things that you can test. And you could get more specific or less specific, but I think that when you break it down this way, it enables you to kind of map out exactly what you are testing so that when you look and you see in your Apollo or Outreach or Sales Loft or whatever, and you see that campaign and it's either like, yeah, lots of interest or no, nobody cares, it'll help you kind of put this in context because I say this all the time, but any feedback is feedback. Just because it's crickets doesn't mean it's necessarily bad. It's obviously ideal if everybody replies to you always, but this is not magical Christmas time land every day of the week, month, year, whatever. So you can't always get 100% reply rates because those don't exist. So even if you're getting negative feedback, it's good feedback. It's as long as you treat it that way and you take it as a learning opportunity. What I'm going to walk through here is how you take this as a learning opportunity. And so even if you get crappy results, you can still learn from them. So I'm going to share my screen in a minute here. I'm going to walk you quickly through the doc. All right. So number one thing, customers need now feedback from the market. Customers from current and future customers. Perfect. These could be the reasons that you're reaching out. So how do you get it? You map out all your alternative combos. You pick 2 and you run a test. You can do that test. Could be a campaign on LinkedIn where you just reach out to some founders manually or some of your target personas manually, or it could be an email campaign using something like Apollo where the sales engagement platform and the data are integrated. It's probably the easiest, fastest way to do it because there's a whole lot fewer integrations that you have to worry about. So you run some tests, you get the feedback, you run some more tests. So what does that look like? Well, you map out your ideal customer profiles, as in when I say ICPs, I'm referring to the definitions of what types of companies might be a good fit for your offering or are a good fit depending on how much you know about the market. And so map these out into different segments. S1, S2, S3 is how I've got it. So you just go here and define, okay, this is going to be people, or I'd say companies that make instant pizza. Terrible example, but maybe I'm just hungry. That make instant hot dogs. You like boil some water, put the thing in. Maybe that's coffee. Anyway, so you map out your market segments. And then the persona. So if we look at the market segments or the ICPs, these are the definitions that would surround the characteristics of what makes a company a good fit. And I like to think about targetable attributes. So where can I put into Zoom? What targetable criteria can I put into Zoom Info or Apollo or LinkedIn to narrow this list down? So that's the market segments or ideal customer profiles. Then there's the personas, which is kind of the exact same thing, but it's for people. So job title, seniority, keywords in their job title, area of responsibility, things they might have on their LinkedIn profile. And so the next step is laying out all the different personas. Now, the most important thing here is not everybody's market is going to break in the same way. For predictable revenue, we target folks that are in sales leadership. there might be the question to ask yourself is if you're looking at between should I do a different persona or is it the same persona at a different segment? Is are their needs different? So if I'm looking at a sales development leader at a B2B SaaS company, 1 to 10 million, are their needs different than a B2B sales leader in manufacturing? And if the answer is yes, they are different, then you want to create a new persona. If it's not different, then you can keep with the same persona. So I just said 1, 2, 3 here. So let's say market segment 1, so S1, and then persona 1, P1. Let's say you're targeting manufacturing. And so I don't know, head of manufacturing, right? And persona 2 might be P2. Oh, P2 equals head of finance. And then you just map out all the different personas, at all the different segments. If you're trying to get a feel for the criteria, I highly, highly, highly recommend looking at job postings. That'll give you a list of the requirements, that the type of experience they might have. So profile building, but it'll also tell you what their responsibilities are, which will hint at what some of the progress that they're going to be trying to make, might hint at some of their KPIs, some of their goals. And then from your research, what you want to break it down to is the job to be done. So let's say for segment 1 is companies that make instant pizza. Persona 1 is the head of manufacturing. Now, specifically, what progress? So I say jobs to be done. This is a measure of, or a way of describing this specific progress that your persona is trying to make. And so maybe we want the pizza to dissolve better in hot water. Super silly idea. Again, I'm sorry. And then the job to be done 2 might be, what would they be trying to do? They might be trying to increase production speed of hot pizza powder. Again, silly examples, but you get the level of granularity. Now, the reason why I'm getting you to do this is so that when we get to this core messaging, right, when we're trying to write and build and design our campaigns, our sequences, our playbooks, cadences, we can take this S1, P1, J1 and say, perfect. Now I'm going to write a messaging doc specifically for a customer or a person that works for a company that makes instant pizza. They are the head of manufacturing and they are trying to get pizza to dissolve better in hot water. Perfect. Now I can write that messaging here. So now I know if I've got this, if I take this sequence or campaign to market and I get crickets, it's feedback on this specific chain of logic. If I get a great success, it's like, okay, cool, let's have a look. Now, I always like to run an A and a B, and I don't recommend making too many high level changes, but it totally depends on how your market breaks. There might be somebody you might be wanting to test segment 1 versus segment 2. So companies that make instant pizza, companies that make instant hot dogs. That might be a test you want to make. My only advice to you is make sure you're only changing one variable. So if you're going to change companies that, between instant pizza and instant hot dogs, highly, highly, highly recommend you keep the persona the same if there are similar personas, and the job to be done the same, and the messaging very, very similar, so that the only thing that you're testing is the difference between the markets. So that is our very quick framework on how we run our market fit, or market discovery or market validation offering. And this is how I would break down messaging if I'm an early founder trying to basically find my first 5, 10, 100 customers, or if I'm in a scaling up startup and I'm trying to break into a new market. This is the way that I would go about testing different messaging, different markets, different personas, et cetera, et cetera. I hope that helps. Look in the link below, or look in the description below for a link to the stock, and we'll share it out. Cool. Thanks. Happy Friday.